Yo, 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 what is up, my peeps? It's your main man Cop here, and I am back with and I have no way to say it this time, Metro. Just me and Metro are doing this
It's just me,
Windwalker
yeah.
Intruder. It's just us.
There's no reason to overcomplicate this relationship, Cop. We're just two guys playing WoW and loving it every second that we do it, right?
That's the thing.
Yeah.
We're back
So
with
yeah,
another
we're back here
Windwalker learning
again.
tree.
There you go. Yeah, me and Cop are back again. This was actually a very interesting pull and fight in general. This is not a kill, which might seem weird. Watch videos like this often, but we are going to learn a lot more from this non-kill than we are going to from a kill, I think, because it's very interesting. This fight, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the progression. 2 hours before this pull, I was ready to call it, like just stop night because it was going. It seemed like we were just wasting our own time. Like people were getting completely just killed by absolutely trivially easy mechanics. And it really turned around quick. If you watched this live, I think you would be surprised by what the start and the end look like. So this is our last pull of the night, and it is a 4% wipe, which is a little farther away than it sounds like it is, or maybe less farther, depending on what you think about the fight. But we basically only needed to not make one mistake, and the fight was going to die, and we made that mistake. And it killed about 10 people, and then that was it. Once 10 people die in one fell swoop, usually things fall apart regardless of who's still alive. So we're going to take a look at this, and we're going to go through it all in detail, and there's going to be a lot more than I think general raidership might learn, or even people looking to learn about the fight, because I feel like I've been through the ringer on this fight. I've looked at 1,000 different perspectives now, and I've seen it all. And I'll say the one thing that's really nice about this is Cop recording this, streaming it, has actually helped us tremendously. I had no idea how important it was that he was recording these and streaming these, because we were able to look back at this and say exactly what this one mistake that I was talking about was, and we know exactly how to fix it now. So if it wasn't for Cop streaming this and us going through it, we would not actually know that. We would still be, there'd still be confusion here.
And arguments.
Yeah, so one way or the other, it's good to have you back streaming the raids, Cop.
Good to be back, brother.
All right, good. So you ready? I'm at 14 seconds. I don't know. It's like skipping around, but I think we're good.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Again, 18 seconds. All right, here we go. Let's get started then. So anyway, the fight begins. You'll notice at the top there, Cop's doing some really good damage. So one thing, praise where praise is due. Cop's really, I feel like he's done very good with the burst rotation. If you guys are new to Windwalker Monk or, just progression rating in general, it's really a burst back, right? What would you say about it?
I would say it's centered almost entirely around the burst and maximizing your touch of death window as much as you can.
Yeah. So, I mean, at least we're talking 5 seconds in, Cop's done more damage by double than anybody, right? So, like, that should tell you everything you need to know about the spec. But unfortunately, we're not going to end that way. But yeah, that's pretty normal for Monk, right? They're kind of like the fire mage of melee. I've heard people relate them to that. And it's all about touch of death, trinkets, and some other stuff. So I wouldn't nitpick that. I think Cop's gotten really good at it. There's some things along the way that we have to talk about, but the burst, you've really figured it out. So immediately, though, I noticed that the weak ore problem that you had, we talked about that on stream the other day. It looks like you're having it on at this point in the game, too. You see that bar in the middle is supposed to be up there showing the chi, designating the chi, right?
Yeah. I gotta reload that before I go back. When I go back in today, I'll be uninstalling and reinstalling that weak ore.
Gotcha. Yeah, just some small visual updates. And I think that this is something that I should bring up here today because Cop and I have talked a lot about it. I'll go over the most superficial means, and the thing that I worry about the most is that, like, sometimes there's things that are going on Cop's screen that are so painfully obvious to me as problems that he's just playing through like they're not there. I always wondered what that was. I think that weak ore situation is one of them. If that was me and I was staring at these weak ores 1,000 times a week and they were wrong, something was wrong with them, I would be like, wow, okay, I got to fix that immediately. I wouldn't even think about it. But yeah, hopefully the monitor is going to help, I think.
Yes.
Cop's got a new monitor, so tell him a little bit about that situation.
Yeah, Metro was nice enough to send me a brand new monitor. It's a 22-inch. I was working with a 44-inch television as my only main monitor, and I'm a lot closer to the monitor. And you'll notice even in the video now, instead of looking up like I am in the stream, I'm actually looking down because I'm looking at the main monitor. So it's actually, I'm a lot more focused. Everything is a lot easier to see instead of being hyper focused on the middle of the screen and not really seeing a lot of stuff. Like, oftentimes I wouldn't even notice the timer of abilities because I was so focused on the center of the screen, and anything outside of my center I didn't even see. Now that's all so much smaller, more compact, I'm seeing a lot more of it. So it's really nice.
And I think a lot of people probably misunderstand it, or maybe it even gets misrepresented by people, but the bigger the screen is not the better the situation. Like, I thought that too for a really long time. I was like, oh, if I have, double the size, this is going to be a lot easier to play because I'll be able to see more. But that's not how it works. The game doesn't give you any more when the screen is bigger. And especially if your game is not, like, if you're not playing in 4K, then you're just stretching 1080p across 44 inches instead of 22 inches. So I don't think that's better. And you'd probably say the same, right?
Absolutely, you're 100%. And then that's all you're doing is you're stretching that thing over. So you're actually getting less with instead of more with a bigger screen like that. So
and then the big problem was that you were like having to like look side to side. Like, you couldn't just look, because right now I stare in the middle of the screen, I could see everything on the screen. But with you, you're having to move your head a little bit, turn your eyes more to see the corners, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So if I have to switch targets by clicking on one of the frames on the right side of the screen, in order to make sure I'm doing the right one, I have to turn my head to the right slightly, and then I risk missing a mechanic, right? Like the one that kills, like you were talking about earlier, killed a bunch of people. It's simple.
Yeah. So that's a big problem, and Cop's working through it. I think he's getting really good at it. So anyway, we start the fight here. The beginning of the fight, this is actually, we'll go through the fight a lot too, because this is a really interesting encounter. The beginning of the fight, you're just basically trying to burn. Now, we did a strategy for a long time where we were trying to actually lust on the pull and skip a whole phase. We didn't make it comfortably, so I kind of just gave up on it. And I'm thinking that it's the right play. It's worked out a lot better for us. But if you're new to this fight and you're coming anytime in the future to this encounter, you really could consider it, because gear and corruption especially has gotten to the point where we're just doing so much more damage than this fight requires. And if you lust on the pull, all you need to do is get her to 65 the first time, and then it's a very comfortable push to 40 before she gets the third set of ads out in the second phase. So that's something to think about, not what we end up doing in the fight. Now, if you saw the notification on Cop's screen, the ads have spawned, and this is already something that I want to hear your thoughts on. So we're actually 3-tanking this. Okay, you see these ads coming in from the side here. We are 3-tanking this, me, Jix, and Seinfeld. Warrior tank, me, Blood DK, Jix as Vengeance. And Jix has the boss, very capable boss tank, doing a great job with it. I am tanking the big ad alone, the Annihilator ad alone. And then Seinfeld is corralling the ads. Now, again, this is another mechanic that I really didn't want to deal with. I didn't think we needed 3 tanks, but it's just a lot more comfortable. The fight itself is just easier to orchestrate. It's a very, very hard tank roll when you're not 3-tanking. Like, maybe the hardest tank roll in the game, because these ads are going to spawn randomly all over the room, and you have to quickly get to them before they kill DPS. Happened all the time when we were 2-tanking. Even if I drop D&D, the mobs just run right through it and hit mages and stuff. So, not ideal. But anyway, so the ads are out, and let's go ahead for a little bit. Godback's got this Weaker on his screen. That's a mechanic from the Iron-Willed Enforcer. It's the really tall ad in the pack. He pulls a player in. He's supposed to pull the farthest players away within 50 yards. So what people do is they have a couple classes like Hunters, Bombkins, Mages, classes with disengages or blinks especially. They stand at the maximum range, so they always get pulled. And then they use their disengage or blink the second they get pulled, and it will negate the mechanic. Unfortunately, it's very hard to replicate, at least for our group. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's because the 50-yard range is very, because the mob is constantly moving around. It's very difficult to maximize it. I didn't think we'd have as much trouble as we did with this mechanic, and this is something that always seems to happen with our guild. We find ways to, like, when I watch encounters, I watch 20-some hours of encounters, and not a single person brings up a mechanic that we struggle for, like, an hour and a half on, and this is one of them. So, yeah, Cop's got a weak aura for that. I would definitely applaud that. But I think, let's see, do you remember if there's any problems with that mechanic on this fight?
I don't recall off the top of my head. I think I got pulled in a couple of times, but the only thing I will say about that mechanic is I know for a fact that I have been in a group of about 6 people, all of them around me, and I got pulled out of the middle of the group. So it's not always the farthest away. It just isn't.
Yeah.
You know. So I think that's why we had. Yeah, I think that's why our guild had that problem.
First this time.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't always the furthest away, and that took people a while to get used to.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. There's just something wrong about it. So anyway, okay, so the fight is progressing. We've killed some ads. So tell me what your approach is. These ads come in, and what are you thinking? What's your thought process?
It goes kind of back to the way that you were talking about that we did the first. I like to cleave off the boss as much as humanly possible because it's just easier. And I think a lot of the ads get killed by 2 things. The range switching to them, and that annihilation cast that the tank and the other mob do. And it's very rare that I actually have to switch to the mob, and the only one that I really try to switch to when I can is that one that does the move that kills everybody because it has so much higher health. That's kind of how I'm looking at it and how I'm approaching it, is cleave off the boss, and if I have to switch to the mob that does the smash.
Yeah, and I would obviously tend to agree with that. It's a fight that is frankly not an AoE fight. It looks like one, and the top parsers are all going to be people in AoE specs because there's just no reason not to be it for that point. But if you're progressing on this fight and you're frequently attacking anything but the boss, you're probably doing this wrong, honestly. And the boss's health pool is quite substantial. The big problem is later in the fight, if you're not fully optimized for single target, it's really going to come back to haunt you. You might have like 150k going into that last phase, but then you're useless because you've put all your effort and CDs into AoE that was irrelevant anyway. So I'd say that this is the right approach, but I do see a couple problems that come up. But anyway, yeah, for the most part, there's just these ads that cast. I believe that's cultists. And then the enforcer, like Cop said, is definitely a target of damage. Like, you can take damage, or the ad can take damage, and we are in a happy state. So now what we're looking to do here is, this is something that you might notice it's a little different. We have the second set of ads coming in, and a lot of people are going to have the Annihilator dude. We'll go back a bit. You see the Annihilator casting the beam. He is off to the right where the ads are behind him. And this is because we just had a lot of problems. I had a lot of problems hitting the ads I wanted to hit without hitting players. And obviously, the players should move out of it, but it just didn't seem worth it. And I'm going to tell you why. Because when the dragon lifts off, we're no longer worried about it. It's a lot of damage that can be gained by having everybody switch to the ads at this point. So what we're supposed to be doing here, the call is to, as soon as these ads come out, everybody targets the enforcers. Now, there's 2 enforcers in this pack instead of 1, and one of them is going to turn into the Ascendant, the guy who does the Annihilation Beam, and that is seemingly a random thing. I can't seem to predict it. Maybe it's one with like the least health or the most health or something. I don't know. But it seems to be that there's 2, and we just kind of burn them both down. So I think I marked them or whatever, but either way, they're coming in. And as you see, the enforcers are either going to start doing their mechanics. Hops. Now, here's where things become a problem. So yes. we got these mobs out here, and I'm like, all right, everybody switch to them. And what are you doing? You're doing the complete opposite, aren't you? You're just standing out there.
I'm standing out in the corner. I admit it. I was trying to make sure I was in the proper place, and I think some of these puddles are, again, this is kind of an excuse, but some of these puddles are making it very hard to run back and forth for the mechanic that I'm assuming we're going to talk about next. So I'm trying to position myself well for avoiding the breath, and at the same time, it's tough to be in the stack for the mobs, right? That's kind of where I was thinking about at that point. Okay, guys, sorry about that. We had a little bit of an audio issue, so there was a cut there. But we're back now. So, Metro...
so the ability is on your screen. That's what I was saying. That the ability is actually on your screen, right? You see 3 seconds. So like any time that you're away in those 3 seconds, just kind of waste of time. And I feel like this ability really. It's not like a very complicated mechanic, you just move out of it, but it caused a lot of problems for a lot of people, and I worry about it was that you included. So I appreciate the fact that you're playing it safe, because that is one thing that I'll always say when we're raiding is just make sure you don't die. Dying is worse than anything. because it's a morale breaker in many ways, and also, you know, that's it. You can't DPS if you're dead. So, but yeah, I would definitely want to see in the future. I would want to see you switch to those, because if you look back at the fight, we effectively, they come out and you literally don't target them. I don't think you do any damage to them until they're pretty much dead. Now at this point you've done something. So yeah, if everybody switches to them, they will not get that ability off. Like, that's the thing. You're dodging an ability that should have been skipped. So that's the only thing I would say. But anyway, let's talk about this part of the fight now. So this is one of the most famous part of the fight. How we're handling it is there's basically going to be 3 lanes that the dragon can breathe over. It works just like heroic. Only the big difference is the black stuff on the ground that she breathes on top of the, you know, whenever she flies over, it stays there for 2 durations, effectively. So you cannot just walk from one lane to the other, back and forth, like you might have done on heroic. In Mythic, you're going to have to vacate really far, because if you don't, then there will be 2 lanes of black stuff, no matter which way you go. So the way we do it, we start on one side of the room and move all the way to the other side of the room, then move all the way back to the other side of the room, and then just finish the fight in the middle. And finishing the fight in the middle is actually more important than people might think, because it's where the boss comes down. So as soon as she lands, you want to be in melee attack range. And as you see, so we're moving from Skull. So if you watch this live, you'd hear me calling it. I would say, and Cop actually has a weak core there on the screen. I didn't actually realize this until we were pretty far through the progression, but DBM and add-ons in general can actually track when the boss is stationary getting ready to breathe. So this mechanic is actually extremely easy to dodge. The only problem is, of course, if not everybody is in the same area, she might breathe down the wrong lane. So then, of course, you know, we still have encroaching shadows, which at this point, you know, you just want to make sure you drop. So not the best drop there. What do you think about that one?
Yeah, no, it wasn't the best drop. One of the things that you talked about a little bit earlier in the progression is that you don't have to take the stack. So I was trying to move at the last second.
Oh yeah, look at that. You did it. Yeah, you successfully did that. That's a good thing to bring up. We'll bring that up today. So yeah, if you move at the last second, you will not get that. So if you're not aware, the boss is a little different on Mythic. It will put a permanent stack on the player every time they take damage from that dot, that puddle dot. And if you drop it, you almost always get a stack. But if you have an ability like Blink or just move quickly, I guess, you can avoid it. And which I believe you do. Yeah, you successfully avoid that. So that's kind of good. Because as you see, a couple people already have a lot of stacks. Kim has actually 5 stacks already. So that's stacks that are not going to go away. He's going to take 5 stacks worth of damage for the rest of the encounter. And it's going to be meaning he's even higher stacks at the end. Because at the end of the fight, it all happens again. So yeah, that's good. Let's go.
Additionally, I'm trying to not box out the other player with the mechanic at the same time. And as you see, if you look back at that, he's a little ahead of me. So I'm trying not to make it so that they can't move out without hitting my puddle too.
So like what I would want to see as a monk, I would want to see you go. See if we can get a good clip of it. I would want to see you go to the far end of the room here, like. Yeah. You have a lot of mobility. You see that right side of the room, kind of by where the red marker was? There is a lot of open space there, and that is just dead space. Most players are not going to be able to occupy that space. Yeah. But you can just, whatever, spinning marmot kick and get over there.
I think one of the things that makes me shy about that, and I am trying to overcome it a little bit, but there's been so many times through that progression, and this is one of the things that killed a lot of people, is people would go to Narnia to drop off their stack, and they get pulled back in because the mobs would be up. So that's always kind of in the back of your mind, influencing where you want to drop the stacks. But
right, and that's another great point, like, because that's something to recognize. There's no ads out right now.
Yeah, no, and I mean that's something that's in the back of my mind, but that has to be. You have to be realizing of when the ads are out and when they're not, for sure.
Yeah, in these situations, that's the time to maximize the placement, and it doesn't really matter because in the end, it's not going to make a difference. And we talked about this a lot when we were going to try to skip the phase with Lust on the Pull. It didn't need to be maximized the room because we were going to kill the boss so fast in phase 1 that it didn't matter where any of them dropped. But now we do have to drop them well, and by the end, we don't do a good job with it at all. And ultimately, I think it does compound upon why we wipe. It's not the reason, but it does make a problem. So anyway, let's continue. So the fight is back on the ground now. Boss is there. Get in as soon as you possibly can, and that's good work because this is a big DPS race. Looks like you're Mouse is doing something. What's going on there?
Well,
you're targeting, you're clicking the bars there or something. What's happening?
it's not even clicking the bars. That's just I'm not paying attention to where my mouse is, because as long as it's not over top of anything that I'm directly looking at, I don't notice it. So
I see.
Again,
so it wasn't. You weren't actually looking at details there. You were just hovering over it by accident.
Just happened to be that my hand, happened to move it over there, and I wasn't looking where it was. So
that's it for those.
That's funny. Okay, so anyway, so the fight has begun. This was actually, I believe this was the pull. Yeah, it must be. We had a very interesting situation happened. So the ads come down. Second, the boss lands. This time, the ads are going to spawn, unlike in first phase. So there's going to be 3 sets of ads in every phase after the first phase. And they're actually going to spawn from, you can kind of see it out of the top left of the screen. It's behind the grasshopper, like the character frame there. It's coming out of the top left. And what we have here is Jix had kept his, whatever, the beam, the blast thing. He kept it from the transition, killed the ads so fast, and that's even without Cop attacking them. We killed them so fast that he didn't need to do anything with it there. So basically what we just did is hard to see because the boss is in the way, but I breathed on it with my ad, and he used his breath to kill it. And I start tough talking the ads, man. I'm like, yo, those things just got deleted. Like, for real, I mean, it was literally, they were all dead with both beams, and that is the way it should go. If you can pull that off, it's a small optimization, but it means the tank is not using the beam optimally. It means he's using it for DPS instead, so. Also, something you'll notice, Jix top DPS on the recount, but in logs and stuff, it will take out the damage from the beam, because details and stuff, they count that damage, even though he's not doing it really. But yeah, just some people noticed this in the stream, and maybe they were confused by it, but obviously 90% of that damage, well, not 90, but a good amount of that damage is going to be that ability that you just pick up and use on ads, so. But yeah, so anyway, this is basically, at this point, again now, so this is another, small quibble I would have. That Enforcer's at 9%. It'd be great if you could switch to it and finish it off. You know what I mean? Especially, it's interesting that you, I noticed this, you've applied the buff to the mobs, and I don't know how. What do you think about this? I see the monk buff, the percent of physical damage. I see it on the mobs.
Yeah,
but I don't believe you've done any damage.
That's because I've got my clones up. One of the main changes I did from when we were trying to just do it in less phases was I didn't tell my clones to concentrate on the boss, so they'll just go to another. They will by default target another target, and that's going to spread the debuff.
Wow, that's pretty powerful, actually.
Yeah.
So you didn't really do that. You did it on purpose, technically, but not to spread the debuff.
No, but I mean the reason I'm doing it on purpose is so that I can get more stacks for spinning crane kick if I need to AoE the mobs for any reason, right? Because that also spreads the thing from Tiger Palm that gives me more stacks on my spinning crane kick when I get a proc.
Yeah, fair enough. Oh, another encroaching shadows. Let's see where we go this time. So this is much more along the lines of where I'd want to see, but again, you don't really tuck it in there well. That would be another big thing I would want to see better, especially as a monkey. I feel like you have the ability to do that mechanic really well. What do you think about this placement?
It was a little better. Again, I think one of the things I was working on was blah blah blah. If I could speak properly, is to kind of not get trapped behind it, and this time I do fail to clear the pool, so no excuses. That was poor placement.
Yeah, well, I guess fair enough. You kind of reacted maybe a little late, or it was just too much of a run. You only have about 2 seconds left to drop it, but you see to the right of your character, there's a big space there. I would love to fill that in, because once you block that off, that space is dead now. Nobody can go in there.
Yep, absolutely. Again, I will totally own that, so...
Yeah.
I think I was distracted by the portal because I'd never actually noticed the portal that the mobs come out of before.
It's a funny little problem, isn't it? Because watch, you see, you almost die here. Luckily, it goes. Luckily, he's there. I guess basically the tank. But this is the problem I was describing earlier. The tank is literally like if he's not there the second they spawn, they're gonna hit a DPS. And we've had it where it literally just doesn't. Like it doesn't matter. Even if he is there, it goes right past them anyway. So. I don't necessarily know why that's happening, but this is pretty... It's almost like if they're forcing a third tank on this fight, because if you're the only tank and you got that ad on you as well, there's no way that you could get the ads that come out of the portal and tow that, that big ad, the Ascendant or whatever. You can't get them together immediately like that. It's almost like you need 3 tanks for this fight. So, okay, so yeah, luckily you avoided disaster because that could have easily been a death right there, and that probably I wouldn't blame you for it, honestly. But as you see, the ads are being brought in. Now, what you didn't probably notice, we'll go through again real quick. What you didn't notice when I was talking about Cop attacking the Enforcer, that is because we've killed the the Ascendant or whatever. I don't know the mobs very well, but we've killed the mob that is there to help us kill the mobs. We did this actually in phase 1, technically. We got it so low, as you see here, it is below 50. It's going to be below 40 before the boss actually lands, and well below 40 actually. And that's not necessarily by design, but I'm actually perfectly fine with this. And over the night as it progressed, I was like, yeah, let's just do this from now on. Because all we need is 1 annihilation out of this. You see it's at 20% now. 1 annihilation out of the Ascendant, and then that's it. The ad pack is dead, and I'm happy to just let it die. Because now what its death does, it allows me to help deal with the ads. This was actually one of the bigger problems I had with 3-tanking the fight, or more so not tanking the ads myself, was I felt like I could manipulate these ads quite heavily. And if I wasn't on them, I couldn't do that. So instead what I do is I just kind of take over some of the ads from Seinfeld. So it really kind of blurs the line, why do we need 3 tanks? Jix even said that, but I don't know, it just feels more comfortable. I don't feel like it's a DPS race. I feel like it's a lot smoother if he gets up all the fodder ads and I get everything. So now you're going to see a very interesting combination of mechanics here. We're gripping them all around, we're moving them all around. It's because of these soul carvers, okay? In the second phase, they start spawning soul carvers, all right? And these mobs, basically they're gonna like shadow step away and then start doing like an AoE. It's almost like a fan of knives. Kind of looks like the ability that like Katrina character uses in League of Legends, if you ever played that. They like blink and then they start spinning, and the longer they spin, the more damage they do with the mechanics. So we really got to kill those fast. And it's that second set that's the problem. So just show that again real quick because it's actually a pretty big deal. So and then again, we have these spawn here. Well, this is the 3rd set already, but we have these spawn here, and we're asking DPS to kill them. So let's just make sure that you contribute in some way. Let's see when it happens. It's got to be happening soon. But yeah, just any damage. Looks like you're getting. Yeah, you've done some damage to them at least just by putting the buff up is enough, really. And then everybody else is going to probably nuke them down, but what do you think about that part?
Well, yeah, and if you'll notice, I also do the stun. I'll do the AoE stun, and I'm also using a couple of abilities that cleave, so I'm getting a little bit of damage in on them for sure. But they die quick enough at the end of the day.
That's all that's needed there. There's no Enforcer, there's no hard switching, just kind of AoE them down. We don't need the Ascendant for that. Like, he would just kill, he would do damage to players that didn't need to take damage. But now we're back, and that is actually a wipe right there. We don't realize it until it's far past time, but what just happened there almost is the reason we wipe. As you see, a player gets gripped about 50 yards away. Let's watch this one more time. Can't actually, it's a shaman, I think, and this is a huge problem. So this is really where we need.
I'm actually further away than that player, and I didn't get gripped. And I don't think I was. I don't think I was more than 50 yards away. So I don't know.
That's a good point, but I also noticed that you're 50 yards away from the mob when everybody should be attacking it. So hopefully we can get better at this as time goes on, because this is the problem. Us not this is like we literally wiped to this, and this is what I was talking about. I was like ready to call the raid because we were wiping to this ad pulling people in during the transition and them not being able to get out of it. And I was just like at a loss for words. I'm like, listen, I don't know. Nobody brought this up. It was not mentioned in a single video. I didn't see anybody have problems with it. Just move out of it. And they're like, I can't. It literally pulls me in as the breath is happening. So what we came to realize was just kill the freaking ad. If everybody switches to it, it will die before it gets that cast off. And it doesn't happen here. And we almost wiped this. And it's not because of the reason you think. It's because the person, it's this here, you see the 4 over there, that's a shaman. It's got to be Rusty, I guess. Yeah, it's got to be Rusty. He's got it. Kano. He's going to get gripped over there, and he is going to drop that right where we want the boss in the final phase. So that single thing there actually has dramatic repercussions that you do not realize is a problem until you're 8 minutes into the fight. Because that is the famed puddle that people were trying to move around. When I said move through the boss, they're like, we couldn't. There's a puddle there. Oh, I can't wait to shout, man. But that's the puddle. That's the mistake right there. Those puddles right there is the mistake. And we get through it in phase 3. It's not a problem. We're going to still do the dance, whatever. But, you know, combination of mistakes where we don't have everybody attacking the ads because I don't, you know, like people are scared of fighting them because this death and I'm not really sure, you know, obviously Cop's 100 yards away from them, so I don't know what to say, but if everybody attacked that ad, that wouldn't have happened, and it's still alive at this point. So like these are the kind of mistakes that you're gonna have at this, you know. So it actually did pull people in there. It's got to be dead before it does that, and we just did a really bad job with that one ad. But again, we didn't get a major mistake made, but we got a mistake that looks like nothing, but it is actually something huge. Now, at this point, this is where the fight begins, effectively. This boss comes down, and the whole progression, I was kind of going on about, listen, we really need to have this boss at 45 when she comes down. 45 or less. Because what we're trying to do is, we're trying to be so comfortable with the push that we could comfortably have everybody in the raid switch to the ads and kill them, and then she will push without much effort. That's not happening. We're still a little shy on the DPS number, but it's really close. But it's so on the edge that it's kind of caused more problems than I hoped it would. And you're going to see it here again. So the boss is at like 43. We still have the Ascendant Alpha in the last phase, which is perfectly fine. But the ads come in. Now, at this point, I don't really know what to call. Because we need the, like, you see, once the boss is at 40, phase 3 begins, okay? And this is a big problem that we noticed in the logs. Phase 3 begins at 40. The second 40 starts, we want to be lusting and burning the hell out of the boss. The more damage we do in this phase, at this transitional phase of phase 3, the better this phase goes. The reason we wipe is not because everybody dies. It's because we are not decisive on what we're doing with the ads. And I think you're going to see in this video the same thing. But what should be happening right now is everybody should be on these ads. I didn't make that call because I wasn't confident enough to say it. But if everybody's on these ads, the boss is at 41%. She's going to push just by natural cleave, you know, just from dot damage stuff. And then we're going to have the exact push we want. But instead, I have, you know, I'm basically telling, but also, you know, Cop's doing it in this video, attacking the boss. And that's pushing her faster. So we're going to get into this really almost state of limbo DPS-wise, where we're going to have a good 20 seconds of very poor maximization. You see we have about probably half the raid. You could see the spells flying at the targets, right? So you got about half the raid actually targeting those ads, and the other half the raid targeting the boss. And the boss is now casting the Void Unleashed. That means that she's transitioned. So at this point, we should be full-on DPS, lusting on the boss. And what we're going to be doing from now on is we're going to be lusting before this phase. When we get here, I'm going to say literally everybody switches to ads. The second the ads are dead, we're lusting. And even if it's early, even if it's 4 to 5% early, it's still better because I'm going to show you why. I'm going to show you why it's early. I'm going to show you why it's good to be early here. So again, boss has like fully transitioned. She's already 39% and the cast is over and we still haven't lusted. So this is how like people are like, oh, we got to kill the ads. What do we do? Blah, blah, blah. So we waste a good 20 seconds of lust. And this is actually the wipe. The reason we don't kill that 4% is because very, very poor start to this bloodlust, start to this phase. But yeah, anyway, we're going to kill ads. If you're in this position, it's obviously not the end of the world. But the problem here is people are fighting ads, and you know, we still don't have people finishing them. It's taking way too long to die. But now here's the mythic mechanic. This is like the main part of this fight, okay? At the end of the fight, the dragon still passes over. It's like she splits herself in two. The second copy passes over, like in the transitional phases in the normal part and heroic and stuff. She's going to breathe down the lane. Okay, so what we're doing is we're going to bait, instead of having the separated groups like a lot of people do. You might have seen like Limit and stuff do that. We're having everybody stacked, okay? This causes a few problems, but it solves one big problem. And that number one thing is people would be too spread out to benefit from our healing. We have 2 shaman healers and a holy paladin. So everybody stacked is just huge for those 3 players. And I think it just makes it easier to call too. Like If everybody's in the same spot, I can just call move. It doesn't matter where. They don't need to know where. They just move. They follow the group. And that's kind of what we're going for here, because we've had a lot of problems with movement and people, dealing with that mechanic as it goes. But so anyway, the phase has begun. Okay, let's go back to the beginning here. Where is phase 3? Here we go. So the boss has landed, and let's take a look at something here, because this is actually really important too. Now, those purple, you might not be able to see it very well. I don't know how it's coming through on your end, but Cop's got his braid frame on the top left, right? It's got all our characters' names on that bar, the Blizzard default raid frame.
Yeah.
On those bars, you could see the stacks. You see the stacks?
Yeah. I'm actually gonna look at the one to the right because it actually shows it a little bit better. It's easier to make out. Because you'll see at the right, it says, see the void corruption thing there? It's going to show you the stats.
Oh, great. Okay. I have that turned off on mine, but that's a good way to look at it too. Either way, you'll see a lot of people with a lot of stacks. Those stacks are permanent. They're there for the whole fight, and they're only going to get worse in this phase. So, anybody going into this phase with, frankly, more than 2 stacks, or maybe, I don't know. It's hard. I've never done the mechanic. Maybe it's harder than I think. But 7 stacks, 4 stacks especially, these things are avoidable, especially if you have movement, high movement, you drop it and move. You shouldn't get a stack. So that's a big problem. And the other reason people have stacks is because we dropped that one puddle so badly. So yet again, another reason that simple mistake that looks like nothing when it happened is the reason we wipe here. Because, 7 stacks on a player before the phase begins, that means they have 7 stacks less to live effectively, because that really ramps out in this last phase. But yeah, so let's continue. So again, you're just going to see it again here. What we should be doing is we should have those ads spawn. We should have everybody switching. All 20 players or whatever, however, 18 players targeting them, switching, doing as much damage as possible. And the second they die, we should be lusting and burning the boss. Because as you see, really 5% is nothing on this boss. We fly through that in about 10 seconds. And if we just all targeted the ads, we would have a much cleaner wipe. Because you still see people targeting the wrong targets, So anyway, so here's the final phase. This is the hard part. And actually, there you go. Cop already gets a stack from running through that puddle, which I'm going to tell you is going to be a big complicator in this fight. So there's a puddle down, runs through it, no big deal. It's stacked, but that's how the fight goes. So we're just going to move. And now here's where things really get a little pear-shaped for Cop, unfortunately. Let's go through this. Let's go through this a little bit more in depth. So anyway, final phase. What I'm saying is everybody stacks. We all move. Okay, but there's more than just that. So we move once, and then right after that is Heart of Darkness. Like, in a thematic timeline. You can actually see it on the screen. It says Heart of Darkness 8 seconds. Okay, so let's follow the line of abilities for Cop. Okay, so here we go. We're moving. He is now out of melee range of the boss. Very far out of melee range of the boss. 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds, 6 seconds, 8 seconds, 10 seconds go by. What are we thinking? 12, 15 seconds where you're out of melee range of the boss? What do you think about that little swing? Okay.
I think it's horrible for my DPS.
Yeah. You think it might have been the reason we didn't make the 4%?
I think there were other reasons that we didn't make the 4% way besides that, but maybe.
Yeah, every point counts, man. That's 12 to 13 globals you missed probably right there. So,
but
I don't know.
My raid leader told me to stack, so I stacked.
Yeah, but you don't have to stack just then. So that's the thing. Like, it's about knowing when the mechanics are happening, right? So let's go through that really quick again, because this is something that I think everybody could learn. This is a burn, like the hardest burn that you're going to do in this raid, honestly. And we got a dude who's about 20 yards away from the boss, right? So how do you solve this? This is how you solve it. Find where it begins. Okay, so here we go. We're burning again. This is also because the bad lust and the bad start to this. It's not just Cop's fault. But he's already frazzled. Everybody's a little off kilter because we don't know what to do about these ads. These ads being alive at this point is a very bad thing. So anyway, he's going to do his best here. Hitting the keys as he can, but then once the move, deep breath happens, we're gonna move. He's gonna run through the boss, and that's gonna be it. Now, as you see, Heart of Darkness is still 3 seconds away. The way we're doing this fight, you do not need to move out here. It's fine. The way we have it, the boss is right on the edge of the 2 lines. Like picture, the boss could go down lane 1 or lane 2. Okay, that's how you'll symbolize it. And then on the central point of the intersect from lane 1 to 2 is the boss. So no matter which side like no matter where the boss is, or no matter which lane you're in, you can attack the boss. So literally all you had to do was just move through the boss and you would have been safe. And then in 5 more seconds, you would move out and stack with Heart of Darkness. So again, you know, this is an experience thing. You'll get better with this over time. But if it's not just you. I mean, you could see other melee out there not attacking, you know. So this is a big reason that we failed this DPS raise. And we talked about it a lot privately, other raid leaders and stuff. It's like, man, our DPS, I'm kind of surprised that it's this poor in this last phase, because we were doing so well in the early phases, and I couldn't figure it out. I didn't know what was happening, but this is a microcosm of what's happening. Yeah. People were panicking, overcompensating for the mechanic, and they're losing like 10 seconds of DPS. Like literally, I looked at the logs. You were off the boss for 12 seconds, so not ideal. But that's fine. It's not the only reason we have any problems here. But yeah, so anyway, did it happen? Okay, so there you go. You see, Heart of Darkness hasn't even begun yet. All we need to do is be out of the mechanic. There is some talk that we go farther and it reduces it less, but I don't think it really matters because we're going to have good CDs for it. So how we do Heart of Darkness happens, make sure everybody's out of it. Thing from Beyond does you no favors, but you're not going to die quite yet. Do some good spot healing, it looks like. So we just got a link. As you see, Spirit Link, everybody's in. Literally all 20, well, besides the tanks, 18 players are all in it, and that's that. That one is a joke. So now what we probably want to do in the future is not use Spirit Link there because it's way too healthy. Everybody's above 50 here. We don't need it here. What we use there is just maybe a single rally or just, you know, just heal through it. It's not going to kill anyone this first time around. But here's where things now elevate to a pace that is very bad. So we had a lot of problems tanking, but we had that solved on this pull. Now here's the move. Okay, so this is going to happen a couple times. Encroaching Shadows is still going out in this phase. And again, the decision making is a big thing. And I think you make an excellent decision here. This is exactly what I would want to see with this mechanic, and you do it well. In fact, you could have even done it a little bit better, but this is a very good decision. Instead of going the angle you go, you can literally just go right back. You see, you're facing where there's other puddles. I would just take that out of the equation. If I was you, I would just roll against the red wall, like the wall on the other side of the boss's area, and just drop it there and roll back to the boss, because other players aren't going to have that luxury, and we're not going to use any space over there whatsoever. Like, that space is dead space. We're never going to go there, you know?
That thought had never actually occurred to me of dropping it on the other side. That is that's totally, I see that now.
Yeah, because, like, let's try to, how can I write this in words? In the way to put it is, like, there's three areas of the room, 3 segments of the room. And the whole previous 2 phases of the fight, we need to use all 3 segments of the room and build this progressive wall of this black stuff radiating from one side of the room to the other evenly. So you want in segment 1 a piece, segment 2 a piece, segment 3 a piece. Now the entire fight takes place in only 2 segments. So that 3rd segment is dead space, and anybody with high mobility can literally just run directly backwards from where we were, drop a puddle there, and not have to worry about, oh, I'm gonna try to squeeze it in here. I'm gonna Cristiano Ronaldo it. Oh, we're good, we got it. You didn't even have to do that. Just roll out, roll back in, back on boss. So you did a great job here.
It's not Zanish. We're not trying to get a little ball into the portal.
Right, we don't have to finesse this one now at this point. You just brute force it, drop the puddles anywhere not near the group. And like, you did a great job for somebody who's playing a rogue. You know what I mean? But for somebody who's playing a monk, you can just roll out, roll right back in. That's it. You'll be back on the boss. But this is a great place to drop this because you need the 2 people need to stay together. And obviously, that's a good place. Okay, so here's where things get interesting. Is this it? It's actually, no, it can't be yet. Bosses. Okay, so yeah, anyway, so we're just going to keep moving. Another Encroaching Shadows goes on you. Oh, this is this part. Okay, so here's Heart of Darkness 2. So at this point, we're going to use another Spirit Link. 2 Brave Souls are going to get Heart of Darkness again. It looks like it's you and Rusty. And you guys got to go drop it. So again, now at this point, there's not really many options because you can't run where I just said you wanted to. You'll die. So instead, you're going to drop it, where you need to. But something funny happens here. You see, there's already a little thing on the screen. It says, Thing from Beyond. What is that, Cop?
That's from having too much corruption in a fight where I don't need it.
Okay. Okay, well, there's only... Oh, there's 2. Ah.
And you
get killed by 2 things from Beyond during the hardest mechanic in the fight. So this is like why I wanted to make this video, because this is almost funny, almost comical, not funny. not humorous. This is hilarious. He gets one of the hardest mechanics in the fight during one of the hardest mechanics in the fight. He has to deal with encroaching shadows, and in case it's not obvious, every other human being in the fight is stacked in a massive spirit link reduction, right? Like, it would be extremely difficult for them to die in that link. There's 2 people who aren't stacked besides the tank, and they have to not be stacked. So this is like every odd against cop. I mean, this is the kind of cop luck that you only see in this situation, right? The dude literally, he could have got 2 things from beyond while he was in the spirit link, would have survived. He could have only had 1 thing from beyond, would have survived. He could have not gotten the mechanic, any other permutation, but he gets the mechanic, so he's not in the spirit link, gets hit for full damage from Heart Darkness, and has literally, look at that, 2 things from beyond. They're hugging, they're giving you a little hug, right?
I didn't enjoy that hug. It wasn't consensual.
Yeah, well, we'll get a lawyer, dude. Don't worry about it. But anyway, so we get the res. That's fine. This fight went perfectly. We had a res, no problem at all. But now, this is where the rubber meets the road. Things get really serious right now. And this has been our point of progression. Again, the boss should be like way lower now. We talked about all that, but it doesn't matter. That is behind us now. Here is the time to make a big play. So we're going to all move together. Deep breath number 4. We're going to move from the one side, the front side of the boss, to the other side, back to the middle, okay? And then mechanics are going to continue to go out, but this is when we need big healing. This is the time to make sure everybody's topped off. So we got, all kinds of CDs going, healing and stuff. One mechanic I haven't discussed is that despair mechanic. I'm not going to talk about it because it's not related to cop, and we've already gone on for, what's this, 2 hours, this video already, but yeah. It's a mechanic that you're supposed to soak. We're not going to have cop soak it. He doesn't need to worry about it. But anyway, stacks are high. We see some people got 20-some stacks already. I mean, the tanks that are 50-some, effective has 29, Salandra has 24 because they're soaking that mechanic. But what's happening here is every time you get a stack, you're taking more and more damage. So this is why this is dangerous, because it's this constant dot damage. Absolutely bitter amounts of dot damage. Very hard to deal with. And it's ultimately going to be the reason you die in this fight. No matter how well you execute the fight, if you do not kill it fast, you will die to attrition. And that is going to be partially what happens here. Okay, so here we go. This is crunch time right now. As you see, on my head is a moon. I have a moon marker on my head. I am screaming at the top of my lungs. Hey guys, you're going to follow the moon. I'm going to tell you when. Just heal everybody up. Let's get to it. If we move and do this mechanic right, the boss dies tonight. It's 11 o'clock sharp. We're pushing past our curfew here. If we kill it, we kill it. If we don't, we have to wait another 6 days to try again. And this is going to be what happens. So the mechanic begins. Okay, as you see on the screen, on Cop's DBM, whatever that is, Weakor, you see Heart of Darkness, Deep Breath, and Encroaching Shadows all out at the same time. The smallest mistake is gonna be the wipe. Infective and KMAS, 2 of our best players, get the mechanic. Couldn't ask for a better situation. Unfortunately, Infective also soaked the Despair, so he's got 30 stacks of this debuff, and that is not gonna work out. He's gonna run out to try to drop that mechanic, and he's gonna die. Meanwhile, I'm gonna tell everybody to follow me, because what we're doing is we're dodging the Deep Breath and the Heart of Darkness at the same time. So my point is, let's move preemptively. As long as we don't move too fast, the dragon is not going to breathe on us, and we are going to deal with both mechanics at the same time. So, funny little thing. As you see, the moon, quite far away from everybody else. And I don't really know what to say about that. I'm telling them, let's move, let's move, let's move. Make sure you're on the edge, okay? Now, there's 2 things that could have happened here. Maybe I'm out of position. Maybe if everybody was on me, the dragon would breathe on the wrong lane. I don't actually know if I'm wrong or if everybody else is wrong, but one way or the other, it would have been better if we were all wrong together or all right together. Because what ultimately happens here is, you're going to see it. And there's a better way to show you this if we had the log, but we're looking at the video for now. So the move is coming. Here we go. As you see, I'm like, all right, guys, move. And as you see, I am about 20 to 30 yards in front of some players. Now, Cop, he's a good boy. He listens to the teacher. He's following me. He's got the speed puck going. He roll over there, man. He's about the only guy in the raid doing it. Everybody, in fact, you see a couple of people literally go the wrong way. And that is because those 2 people with the mechanic probably you know, people saw them running that mechanic out, and they, you know, more realistically thought, oh, those are the people I'm supposed to follow. See, came as an infected, get the mechanic, they run to the right, and a bunch of people follow them. Or it's them moving around that fucking puddle that Rusty dropped in the middle of the fight. That was 6 minutes ago. That was an hour and a half ago, real time. He dropped that thing last year. Phase 2 transition into Phase 3, and that thing wipes it because people try to run around it. So what we learned from this, okay? One, first thing I have to make sure that I'm running at the right time. I might not be, okay? So that might be on me. Number 2, we should not be fearing these puddles at this point. We got people with 30 stack. Doesn't matter if you get another stack running through that puddle. It's not gonna. That's not at this point. It's beyond relevant. Okay, it is safer to move directly through mechanics than it is to deal with them. And number 3, obviously, don't panic because that's clearly what happens here. Most people do not react at the right time, and they do not get out of the Heart of Darkness. And more so, we don't have a strong CD. So you're going to see what happens here. Heart of Darkness is over. Cop barely clears it. Luckily, as a monk, he's able to. And he still gets hit for, what is that, 300 and some K? And that is because of, that you had Touch of Karma up, is that right?
Yep, I had Touch of Karma up. It ate through all of that and, you know, most of my health as well, so.
Scary mechanic. This is going to be a very tough type of mechanic to deal with. And it's not really going to get any easier, but the big thing is just being cohesive and moving together. But as you see, as it's happening, this is when it's happening right here, you see the dragon is casting Heart of Darkness, and we have people like at 20% health. Can't happen. We need better healing here. We need better, this is the time to use health stones, health pots. Hopefully everybody did, but yeah, you could see the difference. Cop is at full health, and we got people who are quite the opposite. And of course, the stack differential is a big part of it. But ultimately, it's going to be the reason we don't feed. So, the funny part is Salandra actually bubbles. He's one of the people who's so low. He actually lives because he bubbles. Rep pally things. But everybody else dies, and it's mostly because people just don't get out of the mechanic. They react too slow or went the wrong direction. So, yeah, as you see, a lot of people run to the right and said, I mean, look at where I am. There's basically 3 people. I see about maybe 4 people total that make it. Everybody else is dead or didn't make it. So. That's pretty much it. It's over at this point. You know, we could try to finish it, but we're never going to finish 8%. And then, yeah, of course, the other tanks die. So then the boss turns to me and starts breathing, and I guess that kills other people too. So that is the fight. It's a very interesting encounter, and we're trying to skip that 3rd desolation there, but of course it doesn't happen. So. And that's 4% wipe. It's more about 5% really, but I'm telling you, the big difference, if we lust properly, we have, and so something else that maybe isn't noticeable, let's go back really quick if we can. Something else that's not noticeable is that not only do we lust, like the timing of lust is subpar and people are attacking the wrong things, but we're like, so that, I should have mentioned that when it happened. That 12 seconds that you're off the boss, that's during Bloodlust.
Oh,
so like, that's a bigger error than it looks like. Like, is it now? Yeah, it's been going. So like that whole first set of mechanics, we got 30 seconds on Bloodlust right now. So we're moving through the boss. Bloodlust has just begun, and you're out of range. Hopefully you got your pot rolling. Yeah, you got a pot rolling and everything. You got your CDs up, pot rolling, and Bloodlust, and you're 30 yards away from the boss. So, like, those are the small optimizations that if everybody improved on, that boss would have been dead to that pull. Obviously, if we just... I mean, there's like 4 or 5 things. This is such an insane fight. What do you think?
I think you're right. This is a really insane fight, but it's a lot of little things added up to something big. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's, if any one of those little things had changed, we probably would have downed it. Barely.
It would have been right at the skin of our teeth. We can do better than that, I know. But it's just so funny seeing those 2 freaking things from beyond. It's inconsequential. We were going to res them anyway. There wasn't going to be any other targets to res. But it's just funny looking, like, I don't know. I wouldn't change anything. If I were you, it's just bad luck. You can't. You know what I mean? I think the bigger problem is the cloak usage. We looked at this a while ago. Right here. Yeah, it happens right here. Like, yeah, look at that cloak. So you can see it's on control 2. Happens here. A little puddle, just a little baby puddle gets dropped. Just clears that puddle. we're not even like, I mean, that is just inconsequential there. Don't, you know what I mean? At that point, just don't use the cloak for anything other than the final phase, because using it right here at this point in the fight, I mean, it's just, this is way too easy to be worrying about it there. So those are just the small optimizations that you're going to learn over the course of a fight, but I think we've learned them already. Usually this is the kind of thing that you talk about after you've made the progression, and you've gotten the kill, and now it's time to maximize. This is before, and that's why I really like this fight. We've learned so much about this fight in a 2-hour span, that we learned more about this fight in that 2-hour span than we did previous, like, 6 hours or whatever we spent on it.
Yeah.
This is a real, I love this fight. I absolutely love this fight now.
Yeah, it's a nice fight. I don't mind it, but yeah, I'm a little bitter about that last pull, this one that we've been looking at, because there's so much little things that I could have done that might have done 4% damage, you know?
Go. Cross.
Yeah. So the takeaway here for you and everybody is don't slack on killing these ads. If we're going to kill them, we need everybody to kill them. And that's obviously at the transitions of all main phases. When the boss is flying out of the air, put dots on the boss if you have it. You know, get a couple last globals in on the boss, and then it is time to kill the ads. Everybody's, and don't panic. These mobs, they give you many. I literally, when I'm tanking and I have these mobs, I backpedal out of the mechanic. You have plenty of time to get out of it. I've seen people get it's like embarrassing how they die to it. It's like just not that scary. You know, I know it's jarring to get pulled in, but just move. Like, I literally, as it happens, I just backpedal out of it, and that is enough time to get out of it. And the reason I do that is because I want to keep the breathing ad, the beam, whatever, the twilight thing, the annihilation, I want to keep that facing that mob 100% of the time. So the only real way to do that is either trying to spin my character around or just backpedal. Backpedal's fine. So
the only thing I would say to that is that there's a big difference in the amount of time you have if you're standing in it voluntarily or if you get pulled in 2 seconds before the smash goes off, right? There's still enough time to get out, but
I'm just saying, if I'm able to backpedal out of it, then you'll be able to roll out of it, right?
Oh, for sure, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And I didn't even get to go to where I was trying.
But that's going to be it here. So, more focus fire on those ads. Don't change a damn thing. You did really well in this fight, and just bad luck at the end. But obviously, the big thing is just getting that uptime up during Bloodlust, and we're gonna make some adjustments to make that easier for you. Killing those ads faster in that final phase 1, that is gonna make the transition into the phase 3 a lot cleaner, and hopefully the DPS will be consistent that we could do that every time. But yeah, that's it. So what do you think? Closing thoughts.
I think we got this. I think that boss is already dead. It just doesn't know it yet.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. I agree. I think this is one of the most fun progressions I've ever had, because we literally sat here for like 4 hours after this pull and found every single thing we could have did better. So I really wanted to make a video with this and hopefully help others.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fight that, you know, you could. It can look scary in certain places, but when you break it down like we did after the fight, we sat around in our guild chat basically breaking it down with the thing from that website, and we figured every single thing out that we needed to figure out to make sure that this boss dies next time we pull it, which is really cool.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah. Totally agree.
All right, so
well, that's it for me.
That is it for me as well. Thanks for watching the video. I hope everybody learned something. I know I did. So take care, everybody. Peace. Cop out.